The problem statement from the case study 1 is the majority of ecosystem services (ES) are not advertised or priced. Resource managers may overlook the degradation of unpriced services while making judgments about how to allocate resources. Designing policies to encourage resource users to deliver or enhance ES at levels that are acceptable to society requires the ability to estimate values for ES. Ecosystem valuation via non-market techniques is expensive and time-consuming. Objective from the case study 1 is to estimate values for selected ES associated with wine growing, and also to check if transfer of the estimated ES values across sites and populations is valid. For the method, a choice experiment method known as Random Parameter Logit (RPL) was used in this study to elicit respondents' preferences for various fictitious alterations in the quality and quantity of environmental characteristics connected to wine growing practices. 4 types of benefit transfer tests across sites and populations also had been carried out. In result, the 4 samples' descriptive statistics and socio-demographic information demonstrate that while they do not differ significantly from one another, they do differ more from the area population. The model estimations might be impacted by these variations between the samples and the entire population. The CE technique, however, enables the correction of such biases by substituting benefit function estimations for point estimates mean WTP. For the problem statement case study number 2, in the 2010 to 2050 Coastal Zone Management Plan for the Over-Marinha sector, it is widely acknowledged that the central Portuguese coast is the area most susceptible to coastal erosion in Portugal. Coastal zones do, however, support a diverse range of ecosystem that offer related services might be lost as a raise coastal erosion. The objective is to assess likely ecosystem service value losses resulting from coastal erosion patterns. The method in this study case using benefit transfer approach in combination with coastal erosion projections to determine the ecosystem services value losses. And for the result, the predicted ecosystem service value losses from coastal erosion amount to around €45 million per year by 2058, which is equivalent to 25% of the concerned coastal ecosystem service values, the entire value, approximately €193 million per year. Problem statement. Bhutanese people are aware of the need to move beyond GDP because of its well-known shortcomings as a policy objective and a gauge of national welfare. GDP measures the total market value of all finished products produced in a nation during a specific time period. However, GDP was never meant to be a gauge of success or development. It is predicated on present costs, which are insufficient indicators of scarcity, particularly for natural and social resources, and it only includes the commodities and services traded in marketplaces and only gauges national income or economic activity. GDP is accurate but not precise. It is accurate since it ignores the contributions of natural capital and many other elements, even if it is precise because it can be replicated. The objective of this case study is to determine an initial assessment of their overall contribution to human well-being. The methodology is using the benefit transfer. The evaluation of ecosystem services contributions to long-term human well-being is known as Ecosystem Service Valuation (ESV), natural capital accounting, which enables comparisons of natural capital to physical and human capital in terms of their benefits to human welfare, is one application of ESV. For the result, the overall anticipated value was almost $15.5 billion annually, which is a huge increase over the GDP of $3.5 billion annually. It is also calculated who benefits from Bhutan's ecological services. A total of 53% of the benefits go to persons living outside of Bhutan. 47% of the benefits go to citizens, with 15% going to the federal government and 32% going to municipal governments. Based on this and a population of 700,000, an estimate of Bhutan's total yearly benefits per capita of $15,400. $5,000 of this amount comes from GDP-reported products and services, while $10,400 comes from ecosystem services. Problem statement for this case study focus on exfoliation, movement, and deposition of soil particles are all examples of wind erosion. Wind erosion also reduces soil productivity and damages ES functions in addition to contributing to desertification and land degradation. In North China, Northeast China, and the neighboring nations and areas, the sandstorms that originated in northwest China have seriously harmed human health. Nearly 31% of the Asian dust comes from Inner Mongolia in the form of sand and dust. This study case have two objectives. The first one is to coordinate inter-regional benefit transfers through wind erosion control in Inner Mongolia, and the second one is to ensure continuing flow of benefits to service benefiting regions SBRS. Method: determining the WS's material quantity in accordance with the RWEQ, determining its value using the substitute cost method. High-split simulation of the WS's transport pathways, determining the WSS flows SBRs, outlining the WSS's material and value flow method, and examining the WS's flows transregional implications. For result, the findings revealed that the total amount of WSs in Inner Mongolia in 2010 and 2015 was 7.831012 kilograms and 7.371012 kilograms, respectively, with total values of 7.831010 CNY and 7.371010 NI, of which 79.18% in 2010 and 79.92% in 2015 flowed to the downwind SBRs out of Inner Mongolia. Spatial proximity characteristics in the material and value flow rate of the WSs led to variations in the advantages received by benefiting nations and provinces. In 2010 and 2015, respectively, the SBRs in China covered 67.5% and 65.67% of the country's total area. People who benefited made up 88.01% of China's total population in 2010 and 86.58% in 2015, which corresponded to beneficial GDPs of 92.0% and 90.5% of China's total GDP, respectively. Problem statement in this case study is following the establishment of global and sub-global assessments under the auspices of the Millennium Ecosystem Assessment (MA, the scientific interest and policy demand typically lead to the inception and conduct of studies at a lower country scale. Since the late 1990s, there has been a steady rise in scientific interest while the need for specialized environment governance has just lately gained attention. The EU Biodiversity Strategy to 2020 and the Aichi targets, which encourage uniform ecosystem assessments at the national or regional level, are the key drivers of actual policy demand. The significance of ecosystem services in preserving human wealth and well-being is emphasized in both texts. The objective are to identify ecosystem services being delivered specifically by the ecosystems in the Czech Republic. Next, to evaluate these services based on a benefit transfer. And lastly, to provide a methodology that would be applicable for an integrated assessment of ecosystem services in the Czech Republic at both a national and a regional scale in order to enable the development of effective policy responses to ecosystem service degradation in the future. The methodology consists of a synthesis of the state-of-the-art, a study of data sources, the creation of a valuation database, the georeferencing and mapping of values, and ultimately, the analysis and interpretation of data. The result shows a benefit transfer was utilized to determine the total ecosystem values in the Czech Republic from a developed database that contains more than 190 values of ecosystem services. The average value of ecosystem services in the Czech Republic as a result equals 1.5 times the country's. Problem statement: communicate the benefits of heritage benefit transfer values in a way that enhances their uptake in practice. In this study case, the objective is to estimate use and non-use value for each city and cathedral. For the method in this case study, they collected a total sample of 2,936 city residents and visitors. We ensured the sample split by users and non-users of each of the city and cathedral sites was above a minimum of 250 per site per. Next, function transfer. The models are pooled at the level of city user, city non-user, cathedral user and cathedral non-user WT, pooling together all observations across the 4 sites within each model. In result, we found simple unit transfer performs best in all cases, which is historic city user and non-user, and cathedral user and non-user models, with lowest mean 3 to 12, 5 and max transfer error 6, 621, 4. Problem statement in the case study is about dealing with forests presents a wide range of concerns that must be resolved. Beside that, the value of tourism and forest recreation is linked to the disproportionate growth of human activity as a source of pollution at a lower standard of living. Objective: to emphasize aspects that were not yet properly considered in the financial appraisal of wooded areas for a balanced management of natural resources, avoiding deterioration and neglect. This methodology is based on a thorough examination of the studies concerning the monetary evaluation of forest resources that have been done in the territory, the degree of data availability, and the degree of harmony between the two areas, which must have at least comparable characteristics, are the major determinants of how reliable the estimation is. For your information, the following 4 methods are included in benefit transfer: single point estimate transfer, average value transfer, demand and benefit function transfer, and meta-analysis function transfer. Result: Garfagnana, the ACI, used to determine transport costs, allowing the data and subsequently the entire analysis to be updated. The annual value for outdoor enjoyment was greater than 686.0 euros, and the average cost per kilometer per car is 0.5 or km. Next, Casentanese forests. This analysis estimated annual tourist revenue at about 834.0 euros. Lastly, the projected yearly values of hunting activity are around 4.28 euros for the Casentanese forests and roughly 61.5 euros for the Garfagnana area in light of such hunting sites. Problem statement: it is difficult to assess all wetland ecological services using several methods. Although various evaluation methods have been used to evaluate wetland services, the evaluation methods differ greatly in terms of welfare measurement, making the evaluation results incomparable. The objective of this study case are to evaluate the weight of different factors in the existing valuation results to discuss the errors of benefit transfer, and number 2, to evaluate the ecosystem services of Yancheng wetland in Jiangsu province. The method in this case study is apply the established functions for benefit transfer by using our sample data and estimate the transferred value for each sample, and then they also use the service value regression functions for benefit transfer to predict the value for each service. For the result, the ecological service value of wetlands increases as wetland size increases, while the value per unit area decreases as size increases, this showing the diminishing return in value terms to the size increase. With the increase of the wetland area, the value of ecological service increases, and the elasticity coefficient is 0.386104. Every 1% increase of wetland area, the value of its ecological services increases by about 0.83%. In this case study, problem statement is the cost of environmental degradation is measured as an economic loss of ES, possibly included in macroeconomic beyond GDP metrics. The possibility of the natural environment being commodified, the influence of market prices, and the effect. The objective is to calculate adjusting factors for ES values which consider differences in productivity between locations using benefit transfer. For the method, productive areas required to produce a subset of allocative and regulatory services for human use can be represented by ecological footprints. Biocapacity is used to refer specifically to the provision of biomass-based resources such as food, fiber, and renewable raw materials, as well as the long-term storage of climate-regulating energy. Result: cropland has the highest ES/IFs when comparing maximum values across nations, followed by woods and grazing land. Problem of spatially distributing data to smaller scale levels exists in many domains. The spatial distribution of national data across regions is often applied in economic studies, for example. The objective number 1 is to investigate the economic benefits of fundamental forest ecosystem services, FES, for the population in Germany at national level in monetary terms, and the objective number 2 is to estimate the spatial distribution of these benefits at county level. This case study have two method. The first one is recreation of local residents to assess the benefits that forest visitors receive from everyday forest visits near their place of residence. Next, the second one is timber production to determine the monetary benefits of this FES for society as a whole in order to enable comparisons to other services. The results in a range of visitor shares between 77.65% and 97.2% in the municipalities, with a mean of 87.63%. Note that this is an estimate of visitor shares on average across municipalities, not a population average. The mean W per A per municipality is calculated simply as the weighted average of the WTF of visitors and non-visitors using Germany-wide WT means for both groups. In addition, for the purposes of the current assessment, gross results are relevant. Since the cost of harvesting generates income for other parts of the economy, both types of income need to be included in order to benefit the national economy as a whole.